Okay, starting off round 1 on the play. On the draw, actually. We are gonna keep this hand. Looks fine. Here we're gonna play grazers. The opponent is on either ballista combo or black-white. So here we're gonna start off with a grazer, play Thespian stage. Next turn we're gonna start cycling our viziers to try and find Lotus field. So he is on the black-white enchantment deck, which is quite fast. Can kill on turn 4. Luckily we have the blast zone to stall him for a little bit. Here the grazer is just gonna soak up all the damage. Here I'm gonna do quite some damage to myself with this cycling. Not as much now that I drew the Sanctum. Gonna cycle now in case I draw another grazer. So here found the Lotus field, so next turn I can go Lotus field plus copy with Thespian stage. So the goal is here to survive till, so the next turn we're gonna copy. The turn after that we're gonna have 11 mana with land draw plus strings, so Fae can get us the Lotus Breach, Underworld Breach from our sideboard. So here we're not going to chump block yet, so just take the damage. Now we're going to put mana in the pool, play Lotus field, copy. Doesn't matter if the trigger resolves first or not. So here we're going to pass. We're going to chump, hope to survive, and try to win next turn, or possibly just buy another turn with Blast Zone. That is also an option. But since now the opponent has a warrior, he can even kill us, potentially through a Blast Zone. Opponent not even attacking. Don't know if that was a misclick or just did not want to attack. That is definitely incorrect. So here we're gonna have, so this is 6 strings makes 4 mana, going to 10. I can play Blast Zone 11, so this would put us to 7 with Fae, 5 to cast Breach. Then we can use strings one more time to put us to 9. Think we have the win here. So then I would go to 9, use these 2 parts. I think we have one card more than we need, so I think we have enough. So here I'm gonna go for strings. Actually, since we have another Fae, I think it's for sure enough. So this, and make 1 red. So we can cast Breach, get the Breach, get more mana. Opponent just concedes here. So we could have used strings, get us to 8 mana. Fae, go to the sideboard and grab Tome Scour. And what you can do is, when you have a breach on the battlefield, you can deck yourself with Tome Scour and Hidden Strings while making mana. And then you can just use one of the milled Fae or the one in your exile to cast Jace or the main deck Oracle. So here the opponent is going to be quite fast. So I probably want this. The opponent does have indestructible effects and protection effects, so maybe the board clears are going to be better. He still could be running the list that was second at the tournament did not have any Rest in Peace. So this is not really that necessary, but it's still good to throw off maybe a high power enchantment. I guess the Blink sort of does that, so we don't really need that. Here we want the grazers, we want to trim on the Vizier a bit. and maybe one strategic planning. So I want to keep in the blinks so I can reduce his damage if he taps out, or even blink the entire creature so he loses all his auras and potentially even 1 or 2 turns. Want to keep in the grazers. The only other sideboard card is maybe Ugin, but I'd rather keep that to just get with Fae if I have too many hidden strings and too much mana, and I already have 2 Lotus fields. Don't really want to go fast. Ugin could probably beat him, but I'm not gonna put a brick in my hand. So this hand basically does not have any lands, even though I have Lotus field. This hand is pretty nice, so we get Scrying. So here, I'm gonna put the Thicket on the bottom. Don't really need that land, and I have my turn 3 land already set up, and for turn 4 I can use Satyr to try and find the lands. So that's gonna be annoying. That's gonna take the Sylvan Scrying here. So this is probably taking the Sylvan Scrying, so turn 2 I'll have to play Satyr and try and find Lotus Field. So if I don't find it, this hand obviously gets much weaker. So here we're just gonna, after the Thoughtseize, Temple, Scry, just aim to find Lotus Field and maybe another Sylvan Scrying. The opponent does have 2 Thoughtseizes in the sideboard. Okay, just draw another Sylvan Scrying, that's great. So the plan is unchanged. So I'm gonna bottom that. Next turn, hope the Sylvan Scrying, then Satyr Wavefinder and play Lotus Field. Then if we find the Thespian stage, we're already set up to try and win. Opponent has both Thoughtseizes, that is unfortunate. That means he can get the Sylvan Scrying that we drew off the top. Again, back to the earlier plan, try to find Lotus Field with this Wayfinder. This Grazer is going to be pretty bad here. Don't have any lands to play with it. Okay, so there's the stage, but we lost our 3rd Scrying. So if it weren't for the 2 Thoughtseizes, we would have been in great shape here. Opponent is not particularly fast. I also can't really block with this Wayfinder here. Okay, so we're going to get some use out of this Grazer in the case that if I draw a land off the top, I can cast Pour, and he's a good blocker for any of his if he does not, the creature that he does not enchant, I can block pretty easily. This Maggot is also annoying. He's just going to take my Pour. So here he had a lot of discard spells. So Supreme Verdict is going to be nice. Actually, no, we can't cast that right now. So that would not be a great draw. So just block here for 2. I can only get 1 white for the Supreme Verdict, not 2. Okay, so another Pour, so I still need a land for that. The Maggot won't be able to attack unless he wants to give me the Pour. And I can block 2 damage, so at the minimum I'm taking 3 here. I'm not going to chump block until he enchants a creature. That's unfortunate. He can now start drawing cards with SRAM. So ideally, I still want to draw Lotus Field. Another untapped land would also be nice. This can actually be annoying. If I don't jump early enough, he can just give it protection for green. And then my creatures can't block it at all. So this is taking 8, going to 10. So I guess I'm going to block like this. If he draws another All That Glitters, I'm going to die. Any other enchant, I think I'm fine. He gets a redraw. Okay, so dig through time. That's going to be real nice. So here I need to decide, is there a point? I think it's just best. So if I'm aiming for Lotus Fields, I want to use all my mana. So I think I'm just gonna do that. So I'm gonna use all my mana and you leave a pore in my graveyard. So I did find the Lotus field and a breach. So this is a potential win next turn. Now the only thing is, do I want to take breach or the Fae? Because the Fae can also get my Tome Scour. So I'm going to take the breach here because I do not have a copy Thespian stage. So it might be a bit more difficult. So here I just have to hope that either my opponent doesn't draw another All That Glitters effect. Hateful Eidolon, that's fine. I can still chump here. Actually no, if my opponent sees the line, I think he has exact lethal. Actually no, I don't know what I'm talking about. So if he gives this pro green, I can block these two. If he doesn't give it pro green, I will just chump him and block. And I think I can win next turn with the cards in my hand, depending very heavily on this pore. And maybe I can cast one or two more pores after that, depending on my draws. So it's looking quite good for me. Obviously gonna survive this turn. And hoping that the draws cooperate. So here's a chump and a block. Take 4, go to 6. Could have, actually this was a mistake, but he would have probably given him pro green. So it's not that big of a deal. Could have blocked here and chumped here, that would have been probably correct, but he would have given him pro green with the Alcei. That was another option. Okay, so Fae, I think we have a guaranteed lethal here. So first we're just going to copy this to make more mana with our strings. Now we're going to untap both of these lands. We might not even need the pore here. So we have make red, make blue, Underworld Breach. So we drew the card that we needed. I think this is just guaranteed lethal. Untap both the lands. And use Fae to get Tome Scour. And we've won. So now I'm gonna show off what you can do with this. So Tome Scour, exile 3 cards to mill yourself for 5. So you gain 2 additional cards, and then you use Hidden Strings with those additional cards to make mana, so you are able to cast Tome Scour again and again and again, till you eventually deck yourself and come to the one of main deck Thassa's Oracle. So mill myself. This mill is in chunks of 5, so we're gonna need now 5 more activations, unless my opponent concedes. Okay, so that is it for round 1. Okay, so we're gonna start round 2 on the play. The hand is very nice. This is a potential turn 3 kill. So, of course, we're gonna keep. So turn 1 is gonna be the Grazer. Turn 2, and put a land into play. Turn 2, scrying for Thespian stage. Turn 3, we're gonna go for Thespian stage copy. And then turn 4, we're gonna go try and kill. So this might be Inverter. Could be a lot of other decks, but for now, I'm assuming it's Inverter. So against Inverter, we just want them to play the namesake card Inverter. That's the best thing for us, since they'll be completely tapped out. And we can just either mill them, combo off, do pretty much anything we want to. So here, Erasure, do have a lot of main deck hand disruption, not graveyard hate, and might be quite difficult, but we do have a pretty stacked hand here. Opponent decides to take Pour over the page. Interesting. So he is on Inverter. Sylvan Scrying, okay. Could use that if I want to get to 9 mana with getting another Thespian Stage. So I'm gonna wait to at least turn 4 before I start thinking about comboing off, so that the opponent has an option to play Inverter. So here he's gonna probably just take the Breach. Could also take Fae if he's afraid of a card from my sideboard. The only real threat card here would be maybe Lost Legacy. Naming his Inverter, that's a possibility. That would it would make the primary combo unable to function. Since we didn't draw lands, that's not really happening, so we're just going to start off with a Satyr. We will still have enough mana to Sylvan Scrying Thespian Stage. 2 Botanicals, so here we're going to Scrying for another stage. Check if it's the correct card. Copy Lotus Field again. Now we have 9 mana. This is going to come tapped, so we don't have the 10th mana source. So this is basically a Breach for 6 mana. So I'm still a bit short from Fae, Breach, Pour. That would also be able to make us to get started. So here, if the opponent just plays an Inverter, he loses the game on the spot, which he does. So this is him losing on the spot. He is probably just not aware of what all is in my sideboard. So here, I'm just gonna go grab the Tome Scour from my sideboard and mill my opponent for 5. Very quick win. The opponent did not quite think this through while letting me keep the Fae. If you would have taken the Fae instead of the Breach, it would have been the same scenario, just would have had to pay 2 more to play my Breach. So in this matchup, do not play Inverter on turn 4. That is the worst thing you could do. If you have no other option, at least you should wait for the 6th card in your graveyard, so you can't just get instant milled. Probably still wouldn't have won even if you waited a while, but he might have at least had a chance. So I'm gonna bring in some number, minimum 2 distortions in. Might want to keep one in the board to get with Fae. I do want a Return to Nature and an Unravel for the black Leyline, and I don't want any board clear effects. He does have a Thief, but I'm not trying to be too worried about that. I want to trim on the Grazers. I'm gonna trim on 3 in a dig through time, since if he has Leyline, I don't want to have dig in my deck. So here, I think this is what I'm going to keep. Now I have plenty of outs to the Leyline, Blink, Return to Nature, and Unravel. I'm just going to keep in the 1 Grazer. That's usually fine leaving in against discard decks, since just the 1 should be fine. The problem is if you ever draw multiples. 1 is really, really great. Multiples get a lot worse. So this is what we're going to keep in. So this is normally, versus not knowing the opponent, this would be a great hand. I think I'm still going to keep, but this is very risky. This will probably get discarded or countered, and then I'll need the redraw off the Vizier to try and find me a Lotus Field, something similar. The opponent could also always have a 1-up Dampening Sphere in his sideboard. So the discard spell as predicted. Fortunately, drew both Thought Distortions, and that's gonna be annoying. Obviously, you do want to draw a maximum of 1. That's why I didn't want to board in all 3. They are very good if you're trying to combo off. So Fae is an okay card. So here we don't really need to draw any more engine cards. Now we're just trying to find the Lotus field. So opponent playing discard spell after discard spell. So here he might just take the Vizier. Probably gonna take Fae. She's gonna leave me with the 2 distortions. Actually take strings out of my hand. That is very surprising, since it doesn't really make any mana if I don't have a Lotus field. So here I wanna obviously draw Sylvan Scrying or Lotus field. Excellent. Off the top, Sylvan Scrying. That's what you want. Get Lotus field. Now he can't get this Lotus field. He could always have Ego for this Lotus field, but then I don't know why he would take strings, as if he takes away my Lotus field with an Ego, strings do absolutely nothing in this build of the deck, except nope, I don't think it does, except exile 3 cards from my graveyard, which is not really helpful. So here the next card I want is Thespian Stage. Okay, I'll land. Here I'm not going to use Vizier. Don't want to use it just yet. I wouldn't have a play for 3 mana. Should have, not actually sure if I should have cycled the Thicket here, trying to get closer to a stage. But what I want to do is just play the Thicket tapped, draw another land, then cycle to untap Lotus field and just jam the Thought Distortion. The opponent tries to go for Inverter again. I just need to draw an untapped land and it will be the same situation as last game. Okay, Jace. That could be very bad for me. Now I can't do the easy line of just milling my opponent. So here, I'm just gonna play this Thicket tapped and pass the turn. I could try to rip a strings or another Vizier off the top and try to combo now. But I think as long as he does not play Inverter, I should be still fine. And he is milling himself. So even if he does play Inverter, he could have Dig into something like that. So this is a discard spell. He could here have Dig into Inverter, which is problematic. But I am also going to use Thought Distortion. So this is 3, 4, 5. So if I draw lands, so this is probably taking my Vizier, not my Fae. Yep. So if I draw strings, I can Thought Distortion him. A land. So here, I'm just gonna use my Fae. So play around the sensor. He does now know what I drew, but that's not really that important. So cast Fae, Mystical Dispute. Opponent had pretty much everything here he needed, even an opt. So here the main card he wants is Dig Through Time, and the main card I want is an Underworld Breach. I think I'm pretty close to just winning on the spot if I draw Breach. And I can always Thought Distortion the opponent if I just draw one more land. Might not get very much from his hand, but it does still eat a large part of his graveyard. He does draw, or maybe he had in hand a Dig Through Time. So here we want Breach and a mana source. One of those things would be nice. Don't really want Pour because it just gets hit by another Mystical Dispute. Opponent does know what our hand is. He has seen it many times. So the opponent has not played a land yet. This is his first spell. So here, another dig through time, okay. He has not used Jace yet, so this is just dig into dig. So this is very bad for me. Now I pretty much need Breach immediately. The Distortion is not going to do much. If opponent just has Inverter in his hand, he can just kill me. So land, not going to reveal anything. He's milling himself, which is fine if he has an Oracle in his hands. So that's a tapped mana source, unfortunately, so can't even Distortion. So here I'm probably dead. I don't think I can do much in this scenario. Well, now might have a bigger chance with the Opt in the graveyard, but still the Jace gives him 3 additional devotion if he just goes for Inverter. He doesn't know my hand, so Inverter. Now he can just go Oracle, and he has 5 devotion, so he can win. Yep, there it is. So the Distortion is clogging in my hand, quite unfortunate. That Mystical Dispute is also what sort of lost me there. If he didn't have the Dispute and I had access to my Breach, this would have been also an easy win. Another Fae wouldn't have been fast enough. So, I think I'm just going to keep it as is. Could board in the Lost Legacy, but I would rather have access to it via the 4 Fae. That makes it much harder for him to win against me. So him picking the Hidden Strings on that discard spell actually worked out quite well for him. He did have plenty of discard spells, so he could have chosen pretty much anything there. Okay, on the play. This would be great if I had another land, but as is, I'm not going to keep this on the play. Again, here just no lands. This is going to be just another mulligan. So this is a really nice hand. So I'm mulling 2 cards. So I'm going to mull away my 2 Viziers. And just keep 1 action spell and the mana I need. So here, if my opponent thought seizes me and takes the Fae, if I just draw some lands, his discard spells will not be effective. Which is what I want, mulling the 5. He doesn't even actually have a discard spell, so that's a good start. Satyr Wayfinder, he can't really do much about this. With only 1 mana, he's probably not running push. So Botanical, over Yavimaya Coast, since Lotus Field is going to make me sack some lands. So there is, reveal the same island. Erasure, take my Fae. So now the opponent knows I don't have any more spells, so he puts the Thoughtseize in his graveyard. And I draw a gray card. So now, the opponent could probably just have another discard spell. That's why he binned the Thoughtseize. But if he actually just binned the Thoughtseize because he saw that I have 3 lands, then that is a win. Since now, if I draw another spell that's safe from any discard spell, obviously the opponent still has, he's not missing land drops. I still know about the land, and Pour gets quite easily countered by Mystical Dispute. Well, not really quite easily. If I just wait, okay. So with the strings, this might be quite nice. Depending on the opponent's play, of course. He could just go land Inverter, hope to draw, and aim on drawing these spells. So this looks like he's missing land drops in the way that he's playing. So he bottom, so I think this was his after he bottomed, he drew the erasure since he doesn't want to keep discard spells. So here he's going to hit the pour, but now I have a lot of outs to win here, especially if the opponent does not play a land. He put a card on top, so it is a land on the top of his deck. So here there are a lot of wins and a lot of cards that get me to a win. Let's see what we draw. Okay, MTGO is being a bit laggy. That is unfortunately not one of them. So if we hit a breach, another Fey, all of those things could have been a win here. So is the opponent just going to slam? Okay, it's a Jace, not an inverter. Opponent milling himself again, so probably has dig through time. So another turn that I can just possibly win with a great draw. Obviously going to use this for a redraw. Not going to cast it at this point since all I want is one more win condition. That's a terrible draw. So here Mystical Dispute is not relevant, not really relevant anymore. So the opponent is going to need, so either he has Drown in the Lock, or he's just going to need to go for his combo very quickly. He does still lose versus Breach or, so here he can just go dig, exile his graveyard, dig again to potentially have the win. So I'm still not drawing anything relevant. The opponent unfortunately does not have a Castle Locked Vein that I could copy to draw additional cards. I can't attack the Jace. So I think I'm just going to get one more turn here. If that much, he could just dig, exile his graveyard, have land inverter plus Oracle, and that's a way he can finish this quite quickly. So after that Fey, we didn't really draw that well. So we drew the Pour. So we drew Pour, Strings, and Satyr, and that was all. The rest were just lands, unfortunately. We did keep 4 lands in our opener. 5 lands, I think. We drew Satyr, then we drew Pour and Strings, and then we just drew running lands. So there's not really much we could do here. We still do have a chance to win if the opponent just doesn't win this turn. So this looks like he's not winning this turn unless he's using this for a Thoughtseize. He doesn't think he knows about the strings. Yes, he knows. He saw it with a Thoughtseize. So he doesn't know this card in my hand. So if he casts the Thoughtseize, he can't go for the inverter combo. I think he's short even with an opt. So he would go land inverter, 4 cards in deck, opt. So he doesn't have enough. So here, looks like he's just looking for an inverter. He gets to look at 7 cards here. So here, land breach. So 1 good, 1 bad. So the opponent has decided to start milling me. Still, if I do hit a breach, I think I still do win pretty easily. Fortunately, that is yet another land. I think he's got me here. I think he has the win. At maximum, I get 1 more draw step, then I think I just lose to the Jace Ultimate. He can probably get together the combo in 7 cards. Yep, here it is, inverter. And the third Thassa's Oracle probably just finish it here. There it is. Unfortunate draws. But that's going to be it for match 2. As soon as I get the button. Okay. Okay, match 3. This would be a really nice hand if we had one green source, but without that, gonna need to mulligan. Okay, so this hand is great. I'm gonna bottom the blink. Don't really need that. Might just bottom the grazer. So grazer does still give me turn 2 Lotus field, which I think is still better than this blink game 1. Opponent mulling the 5. So here the plan is tap ticket, hope to draw another land so I don't have to sacrifice the stage to the field. Obviously, if there's no other way, I am going to do that. I'm on the draw, so could be good. I can also just hit land drop immediately to play a grazer turn 1. Could be the mirror. Yep, looks like it. Doubt the ramp deck would be mulling solo. Luckily, I also have a grazer start. So, could be blue-green ramp, but I highly doubt it. Probably the same deck as me. So this is going to be a mirror. The opponent did mull to 5. Yeah, 5. So he still can win. It is much harder to win on the play on 5 than on the draw in 5. So we did find Lotus field. He did pitch 1 in the graveyard. Depending on the cards in his hand. So I'm going to cast this, just get another stage. Not really that important. Just so I get an extra card in my graveyard. So here if he has stage as well, he might not even need stage. He could just kill me here. With a mull to 5 on the play, he could just kill me here. That's always a thing you can do. So he actually just has straight up Thespian stage copy with a mull of 5. So if his last 2 cards are face strings, he can actually just win it here. So for me, I'm gonna cycle the Vizier to try and find a way that I can win here. Because if I hit a strings, I can potentially win here, so that's not a strings. So I don't really have many other options than to just copy my land and put this scrying in my graveyard, getting any. Could just go for a Temple of Mystery since it's not going to come down to another Thespian stage. So let's see if the opponent has it. If he has strings plus Pour, that's a great card. So being on the play is quite important in this matchup, so he does find Breach. Fortunately, opponent had it faster than me. That's why I also cycled the Vizier. So this is probably just a loss. He gets minimum 2 more Pour over the pages casts to find the strings or a Fae. Probably strings not really that important, more of the Fae. So another Pour. So he's using 2 cards from his graveyard and discarding 1, so he's basically just using, he's exiling 3, putting 1 in the graveyard, so he's just basically using 2 cards from his graveyard to gain 1 mana and draw 3 cards. Or more precisely, see 3 new cards. Strategic planning that's going to make it a lot faster. Does still need to hit. Does not find a Fae, which is quite unlikely. He still cannot win here. Vizier helps, that just fuels the graveyard. So I think he's got it on lock. Either he can just strategic planning a couple more times, So overall, strategic planning use one card from your graveyard. So here's another pour. So the difference is that planning uses 2 mana while pour gains 1 mana, but strategic planning puts an additional card in your graveyard. Okay, so strings. So now he can just start using strategic planning if he knows how to play correctly. Okay, he just had it. It was quite likely that he finds it, so couldn't do much here. Couldn't even dig trying to find any out in my deck. Opponent just had exactly what he needed. He needed the accelerator and the setup. I unfortunately did not have the hand to punish him, even with the 2 additional cards. So here, I definitely want 2 distortions. I don't like bringing in disenchant effects in the mirror. I think that's just not really what you want to be doing. I also just like trimming blink. I don't like fighting over breach. I think that's just a bad way to play. You don't get many turns when you can leave up 2 mana. So I think it is just better to leave it all in the sideboard and just go for a tap out, try to win style of game. Usually if you just trying to leave up the mana all the time, you will more or less just lose more. So this is a great hand. It's gonna still need a little something like a Thespian Stage or maybe some Viziers, but this is a great start. So obviously here I'm gonna be the person to combo the fat. It depends on if he has the grazer, if I'm gonna combo 2 turns or 1 turn faster. Usually the person on the play gets the combo 1 turn faster, so this looks like I actually have 2 turns, but also completely depends on my hand. So here I'm not gonna play out the grazer. There's no real need to play it out. I'd rather keep it in my hand to use it to discard to pour, since a grazer on the battlefield has very little relevance in the matchup, except if the opponent plays out a Fae. Could also potentially win with drawing a Fae and going for a Lost Legacy. That's also a way out. So the opponent has the setup again for at least Lotus Field, but he is a lot slower than me, but I don't really have the good cards. I don't have the card quality. So here, I'm actually going to wait a turn. The opponent is forced to play Lotus Field here, so he's going to be completely tapped. So I'm just going to wait one more turn, try and get an additional land so I don't need to use my hidden strings. Here he's just going to run out the Oracle to look at the top 2 cards, trying to assemble his combo. So since I had the grazer and he did not, I can just wait for some more time. Okay. So here we go. I think I can use 2 pours here, since with one Lotus Field I lose 1 mana each time. So pour. Some pretty bad draws here, so I'm gonna make some red here. Actually, that is completely irrelevant here. So I did get a Thespian Stage. That is basically what I want here. So I have 7 cards in my graveyard. That is 2 uses of strings. So that might be enough. If I can get this copied and both untapped, I'm probably good to win here. So I can go breach. So this is 4 mana, breach strings, make 4 mana again. Copy, use the strings again. I think I have it here. withdrawing the Thespian stage. So hidden strings, obviously only need 1 strings for untapping. So here, I'm gonna copy, use the strings again with all the mana I have remaining. Could obviously completely brick with the 2 pores in my hands. Now they do make mana. If I don't find anything, so that's the phase. So I think this is just game. Now let's see if so let me just quickly check. Better play another pore first just to be safe, so I didn't miscount anything horribly. See if the opponent is just gonna concede based on the fact we're in the mirror, or he's gonna make me play it out. So Tome Scour myself. Tome Scour myself. So now we're just gonna use strings. Make sure not to exile Tome Scour or Thassa's Oracle if we see it. Oh, actually I have it in my hand, never mind. Yeah, so the opponent concedes. Just checks that I know how to do the combo and concedes. Okay, so going to game 3. I'm not gonna change anything here. It's basically, I don't want to bring this in just to try and stop him if he goes breach. Sometimes if you just have enough mana, you can just go breach, breach, play breach, and play breach from your graveyard, which makes this completely irrelevant. So as long as the opponent knows how to play this deck correctly, with enough mana, you can play around basically anything. Neither of us have graveyard hate, so this is a very nice and very fast hand for me. Again, do want to draw 1 additional land so I don't lose the Thespian stage to Lotus field. Let's see, opponent does not have it again, so I will actually have the advantage for this game. So basically him not having a Razor and me having one is just like me being on the play. That's how it ends up in this matchup, since this is mostly about speed. This is the unfortunate part here. So I'm very tempted to just wait here a turn, try to draw land again. Because if I just play out Lotus field, I don't achieve anything. So I'm just gonna wait. Because if I just play out my Lotus field, and I don't draw any lands, all my spells I can cast pretty much with these 2 lands. I don't need the 1 additional mana. But if I do draw a land, I can then play the land and use the stage to copy on the next turn. So here the opponent has what he needs. Ooh, so this is had a very good hand. Okay, so there's the land, but unfortunately now I'm really slow. He already has 6 mana, so this is the equivalent of a Thespian stage for strings, since it can untap Lotus field, so here I can just easily die. So if he doesn't have a strings, I'm still fine. And this doesn't work as well with pore, only works with hidden strings. He had the double vizier. Basically, if you have double vizier, you can play the Lotus field, tap to untap it, and play another vizier. That is quite rare, but the opponent, that is a way to get ahead here. Now he has 6, potentially 7 mana, so even has the stage. So here he can do pretty much anything he wants to. Now is just a question of if the opponent has an engine spell like Fey, Breach, or Pore. Looks like he does. 6 mana. Fey might get an extra turn, but it won't help me. Tome Scour? Okay, so he basically told me that he's basically got Breach in his hand, and that's the last. Wait, if he has no mana. So he does not have strings in his hand, otherwise I would have been dead, since he went for Tome Scour, not Breach. Fortunately, Thespian Stage cannot copy his land since it has hexproof. So here, can't really do much except just tap out and hope for the best. Can't really do anything. This is still a better position than if I would have just played my Lotus field out, since I would have just had a Lotus field and a land. Could have maybe fade for a Lost Legacy, and then I needed to wait another turn and wait for it to resolve. So Tome Scours himself, he's looking... Okay, so he's gonna go all in trying to... So he's gonna get... So, four attempts. So if there's not a strings in the top 20 cards, he's gonna lose here. So he's going all in and on trying to find the strings with this Tome Scour. If he doesn't find it, I think I win this pretty easily. If he does find it, then obviously I just lose the game. So still not hit. 3 more attempts. Or yeah, he can just start using 4. I think he's just got this. Unfortunately. Yeah. He can just make mana and Tome Scour, yeah. Not as effective man, and he did just draw the strings, so yeah, this is GG. Fortunately, did not draw another land when I needed to, but sometimes it just happens. You can't really do that much in a mirror, so that is it for match 3. Welcome to match 4. Gonna be on the play. This hand is pretty bad. Don't really just have 1 land. So this hand is nice. We have the Sylvan Scrying. Gonna put 1 planting on the bottom. So we're hoping to find 1 more land, and then we basically have everything we want. So we want the 1 extra land so we don't have to sacrifice Thespian Stage to our Lotus field, which we will be getting with the Sylvan Scrying. So here I can lead on the Sanctum. Oh. Nozioni, thank you for the follow. So here, gonna play... So here I'm just gonna land Sylvan Scrying, unless obviously opponent has turn 1 Thoughtseize. Gonna get Lotus Field next turn. Strategic Planning, hope to hit a land. So okay, we're gonna blue-white control. Okay, excellent. Did hit a land, so I can now start with that land. Gonna get the Lotus Field. Now we have basically everything we need here. So here, I could play Thespian Stage. Oh, no problem. So here, I'm going to play... Okay, so there's no need. If the opponent would have played an untapped land, we could possibly have played a land to play around a potential Censor. But now we don't need to. Here I'm going to take another strings, because in this matchup you do most often use strings to tap their own land, to tap their lands, so they can't hold up as much counter spells. So usually you can get a very quick start to tap him out of Absorb and just go for the kill, or after, if he does not play carefully enough, he can just put a 5-mana Teferi on the battlefield, try to untap 2 lands. You'll probably think that's enough, and then I just strings his lands and go for the win. So here, the opponent does have a bit of mana issues, so this is also annoying. This means that I cannot use my Thespian Stage, and at least for as long as my opponent keeps a Field of Ruin. But on the same end, the opponent cannot use Field of Ruin until I activate my Thespian Stage. So we're basically both... Okay, so wanted to say we were both locked, but the opponent said he needs to cycle. So I can just get this Lotus Field copied quickly while he does not have the mana. So here, if I get a breach, I can potentially just kill him next turn. If I draw a breach, I'm just gonna strings his lands, especially now. So basically, if I hit a breach in the, well, now more than just top 4. So if in the top 6 I can hit a breach, I think this is just an easy win from my side. He doesn't even have the mana for absorb, and if I don't play this coast out, he can't even use the Field of Ruin in response. So here I'm gonna go planning, strings, planning, depending on how the opponent, if the opponent chooses to veto or not. That's the only thing I'm playing around here. Obviously a censor could also happen. So start off with a strategic planning. So his only option are veto and censor. So I'm going to take the stage, not going to play it out. I'm going to waste one of my strings here just to play around any veto shenanigans. Ooh, he's actually running Sinister Sabotage, so okay, that was nice. So now I'm gonna go in here. That's why I played one strings with 2 mana left. So here, if I hit with the strategic planning, I obviously win the game. If I whiff, he just concedes. Well, that is obviously not correct to concede, by no, but we did hit the breach, so we had the game won there. Even though the opponent just concedes immediately because he thinks I just got him with the strings. Okay, and I guess opponent just conceded the entire match. So that's it for match 4. So here we are for match 5. We're going to be on the play. This hand looks nice. We have 2 lands and a Sylvan Scrying. We have a strings, a vizier, and an engine card, so this is exactly what we want. The only thing we want to draw from here is a Thespian stage. Obviously, if the opponent has turn 1 discard, the Sylvan Scrying is going to go away most likely. We do still have a redraw in that case with the vizier. So, let's see what the opponent is playing. Opponent taking his time. Okay, so mono white, so this looks like mono white Heliod combo. Blast Zone, while it might be impactful in this matchup, it's just going to get sacrificed to the Lotus field. We did draw another Vizier, so that's going to make comboing with 1 Lotus field a lot easier. Could also just, if the opponent does not have fast enough Heliod, just try and go for a Lost Legacy on Heliod. That's probably not going to be worth it. So I could, with this hand, it is pretty slow. So it depends if I'm going to draw another land or not, how fast I can win this game. That's great. Gonna play this out, not gonna cycle any Viziers, gonna save everything for next turn. So next turn we're gonna have 5. This adds 2 because we only have 1 Lotus field, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can go Fey, Breach, 1-time strings. I don't know why people are so happy slamming this Gideon. He is just not good against, and he doesn't even emblem it. I don't know whose idea was that this was actually... I heard some people say that this was a great card against Breach, while I think it is just absolutely terrible. Especially since you have the entire face sideboard, not to mention the blinks in this version. I'm gonna cycle the Vizier, so I'm planning on starting to combo off this turn. Obviously shouldn't have played my Coast first, that is a mistake. Should have waited if I potentially draw a Thespian stage. So here, looking towards my sideboard, if I want to go all in this turn with all the Viziers, I think I actually will cycle the other Vizier so that I can go Fae plus Satyr Wayfinder. Probably could have Satyr Wayfinder first, so I would see what I would draw. A hidden string, that actually makes this a bit more interesting. So I have now 4/6 access to 10 mana. So 10 mana. So Fae Breach is 6 of that mana, so I'm left with 4. And I can use strings 2 more times when I have these 2 in my graveyard. So that would get me to 8 mana. I think I'm exactly 1 card short in my graveyard, but I might have enough with Satyr. Actually, Satyr would be neutral here, since he would put... I guess he puts an additional card in my graveyard. This might be exactly enough. No, because I would need to exile Oracle with the Fae if I used my entire hand, so I cannot do it this turn. So this is just some complicated, quick math calculations. If I would be able to kill this turn, I'm pretty much, I think I was 1 card in my graveyard short of just killing my opponent here, so I'm going to get the Breach for next turn. So the point is, if you just have the Fae for the combo, just the 1, you're going to need to, this all together, after you have used it once, it costs 8 mana and 2 cards in hand to reuse to get something out of your sideboard. That is quite expensive. Okay, so the opponent could have a quick kill next turn. Okay, here's the Heliod. So basically all that he needs now is a Walking Ballista for next turn. He might already have it, but I think I already have the kill pretty much set up here. Battling End main deck. Okay. It wouldn't have been that big of a problem if you used it on Oracle, but I think I have enough here to just finish this game. I guess I can make blue. Yeah, sure. So strings. Now I have a bigger graveyard here. So Underworld Breach. Gonna use the second strings. Now I can recast my Fae. Use my Fae to discard 2 cards. I'm going to keep the Oracle in my hand since I don't want to exile it. And I'm going to keep the Breeding Pool since I can get 1 additional mana in a pinch if I'm just 1 mana short. But I think I should have lethal here. Okay, so untap, do that again. Exile 3 more cards. Now we're gonna go to my sideboard. So I guess this is why this Breeding Pool was nice. So now grab my sideboard and get that Tome Scour. Scour myself. Strings. And this game is basically over. Just gonna take some additional time here. So basically what I'm doing here is each Tome Scour puts 2 cards in my graveyard for 1 mana. So and each strings makes 2 mana with 1 Lotus Field. That meaning that 2 mana makes 4 cards in my graveyard with Tome Scour, and I can use 3 of those 4 cards to use hidden strings to gain the 2 mana I need to redo the loop. So basically what I'm doing is every single one of these loops basically just puts 1 additional card in my graveyard by the number of cards in my graveyard. Of course, I'm also, with every Thought Scour, I'm milling my deck for 5 cards. So every loop just puts 10 cards in your graveyard as well as leaving an additional card in your graveyard, so you are able to access sideboard, the Jace in the sideboard, if the Oracle is exiled in any way, or if they have a response for Oracle. So this is just a long process of winning here. I don't really have to worry about what I exile. The only thing that's really important I don't click on is Tome Scour, but most of the time that is the spell I'm casting, so I really just need to worry about when I click with the strings. Okay, so this is the last round. I'm also going to need to get rid of that Gideon before I do anything, which is also a bit annoying, but we can do that. So use strings twice. I could have also been an idiot and just exiled my Blink of an Eye. That would have been also bad since I was completely not paying attention. So here, I'm gonna start with a Tome Scour. Don't want to be left with 2 little cards in my graveyard. Now go for the Blink on the Gideon. 1, 2, 3. And last, just cast an Oracle. Make sure that there's nothing on the battlefield that could negatively impact me winning here. Okay, that is it for game 1. MTGO being laggy as always. Hunt sideboard. Opponent is gonna have a lot of hate, so definitely gonna want this. I think I just want all this in my main deck. I'm not sure if I really want to sideboard anything. The board clears are okay, but bad versus the combo. So I don't really think I want them. So here what I want to trim is the Dig Through Time. That's for sure, if he has Rest in Peace. He does not have any discards, so I'm going to keep the Grazers in for blockers. I'm going to trim the Vizier. I want to keep both of the Blinks because of Rest in Peace and other similar effects. And what I want to trim here is probably maybe a Satyr Wayfinder. There's one more thing I can cut. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be bringing in the board clears since the opponent is not really that board centric, and he does have a combo which goes through board clears. Since I cannot destroy Heliod, there's no real point. It might let me live an extra turn, but it doesn't stop him from potentially comboing off, so I'm just going to leave that in the sideboard and just try to keep my deck as lean as it can be. Okay, so this is a fine hands. We have Rest in Peace Hate, Fast Grazer, some redraws, and an engine card, so this should be fine. I'm actually going to play the Forest out first. If I draw Lotus Field or Sylvan Scrying, I'm going to want to sack Forest and Breeding Pool, and I'd rather keep the Botanical Sanctum for the extra land. Could get punished if I draw Pore Over the Pages, or if I play Botanical Sanctum now, I could get punished by drawing Lotus Field next turn. There's the Rest in Peace we prepared for. Okay, so that's a very nice draw. Now the ordering of this is a bit annoying. So I guess I just throw the 3 cards into exile. I don't have much of a choice. So I'm just gonna throw these cards into exile. Okay, so he's missing land drops. Wow, that's pretty bad for him. So now I don't really have to play quickly. Normally I could have just returned to nature that. Cycle Vizier, return to nature, copy Thespian all in the same turn, but because the opponent is missing land drops, I can just take this a bit more slowly. Copy first. Now we kept Sanctum over Forest, so here, this is where it's going to be relevant. So, if I wait one more turn, I do get punished by another Rest in Peace. I don't get super punished. Okay, so, Pour Over the Pages does change things. I am going to go for it now. Or at least attempt to go for it now. So here we're going to remove the Rest in Peace so we can start putting cards in our graveyard. I'm going to play the land, pour to make 1 additional mana, and then try to go from there. Our goal is to find strings, since that will probably give us enough mana to just go Fey, Breach, and win from there. There are a lot. Unfortunately, the 3 cards we lost off of the first Lotus field entering the battlefield exiled, so we are going to be starting off with a little smaller of a graveyard, but should be still fine. Opponent can't really do much, so I'm just waiting for him to click the OK button. Okay. Land drop. Pour. Opponent still has not F6'd. So here we're gonna probably pitch Coast. Okay, we did hit some cards, so I'm actually gonna pitch Pool over Coast. Just cycle Vizier for a free redraw. Okay, so I'm just looking for strings here. I do have plenty of pours. Unravel. I personally tried the Chronic Flooding version, and I do not think it is as good as this list exactly, because you're too reliant on the enchantment that does not really do very much, and you focus yourself on graveyard win condition only. So here, none of them are really good. I think I'm gonna just take Unravel if the opponent has Rest in Peace here. Okay, there's a Hidden Strings. So here, I can go 3. I think I'm just 1 short here. So this is 3, go to 7. Yeah, I'm 1 short here. So I'm gonna need to pass. The opponent has a Rest in Peace. We do have an Unravel for it, but it's still gonna hurt. Okay. We can deal with that, unless if he was holding this and he's just gonna play a land Rest in Peace. That's also counts as very annoying. Yep. Nope, it's Walking Ballista, so I think we're safe here to just win. Gonna block the 2. If he wants to shoot with Ballista, be my guest. Okay, so I think we're just finished here. Mana in the pool, put some red. Have a stocked graveyard. Plenty of mana, plenty of cards. granted. Get the breach and do the combo. Already have the Oracle in my graveyard. Underworld Breach, don't click Anger of the Gods, that could be very bad. Okay, strings. I do actually have another Fae in my graveyard, which is going to make things a lot less expensive and a lot faster. So use the Fae with the granted from my graveyard. 1, 2, 3. Exile anything but the Thassa's Oracle. Tome Scour, and time to start scouring myself. So scour, scour. Make sure not to use too much of your mana, because I will need strings again. Okay, hidden strings. 2, 3. Exile anything but Tome Scour. Okay, I think my opponent has had enough. So we ended with a nice 3-2 finish after losing to the mirror. One more matchup I cannot exactly remember, but this is gonna be it for the video. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.